Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Alien Romulus. My history with the Alien series is that as a kid, I really loved the Predator movies. And I think I did love the Alien movies. It's just they weren't really rewatchable to me as a kid. I wasn't really a big science fiction fan. I would gravitate more towards watching the Halloween movies and the Chucky movies and the Psycho movies. And but I still did. I think I saw all of them. I'm trying to think if there's one that I haven't seen. I think the only ones that I haven't seen are like Predator movies. I haven't seen Predator 2. I haven't seen Predators or the Predator one that came out that goofy guy made, Shane Black, and then I haven't seen Prey. But I did see Alien 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then both AVP movies. I can't really remember most of them very much. I mean, I remember that the second Alien had like some action in it. That's about all I can remember. And then I think so the funny story with, I think it was either Alien 3 or Alien 4. I can't remember because they're both kind of like interchangeable to me since I haven't really seen them in a while. But I think it was Alien 3, I watched it at this former friend's house, and his family was like a really religious family, and they were a really like weird family, and we were watching, I think, Alien 3 on TV, or Alien 4, I can't remember, and his mom, the whole movie was like counting all the F words, and like every single time they'd say the F word, she'd get upset. It was just kind of weird. It was such a weird experience. It was like, I don't know, but like that's what I remember about that movie. And then the other movie I watched at another former friend's house, and it was funny because this was like the only time I ever went to this guy's house ever. I only went there one time, and it was actually a pretty nice place though. But it was really weird because like this guy was like, he did something bad or something, so he wasn't allowed to play video games, or he wasn't supposed to. But then we went upstairs and he started playing video games anyway, and his mom caught him because he left the door open to his bedroom. So she took his gaming system and put it in the closet or something. And like, but she was like really like, okay, now why don't you guys go downstairs and watch a movie on TV or something? And it's like, this is so queer. Like, he can watch movies and watch TV all he wants, but he can't play his video game. It's just so queer. So we watched, I think it was Alien 4. Again, I can't remember. And I literally can't even really remember what that was like, because these movies, the first two I remember being really good, but the third and fourth one are like, I can't really remember them being spectacular. I just, mostly I could kind of fall asleep to them, you know? Yeah. I don't know what else to say. And then AVP 1, I thought was a piece of crap. I mean, really bad. And then AVP Requiem is like one of the worst movies ever made. So going into this movie, the point is, going into Alien Romulus. Oh yeah, and then there's those Prometheus movies. Oh wait, I haven't seen those. I don't want to see them. Ridley Scott's a hack. He can't direct anymore. He should quit and give up. But, you know, going into this movie, I didn't have any expectations of if it would be good or bad. You know, I was much more expecting Trap to be good and Long Legs. Both of those movies I had higher expectations for. This one I was just kind of like, whatever. I'll see it to review it. I'm not going to expect the world of it. And it starts off, I don't think this movie does a good job at setting up the story at all. The way that the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is so bad, and it's such a snooze fest that it actually doesn't even make me want to watch the rest of the movie. And that's an important thing. It's called a hook. When you do a story, you have to have a hook at the beginning to get the audience involved and to get them invested into the story. And there's no hook at all in this movie. The hook is like, you see this girl, and it's immediately jumping into a story with her and this guy, and it's a terrible, terrible setup. And these characters in this movie, too, you have this little cast of characters. They're trying to do like a heist or something on this space station or something. And they're the most bland, boring set of characters you could ever write, ever. Like, they're just... ugh. Pretty much, like, they're not even, like, full stereotypes of what they would have been in, like, the early 2000s, because that's what this movie reminded me of. It reminded me of, like, an early 2000s Alien movie. It kind of reminded me of, like, the Texas Chainsaw remake, the early 2000s one, but if it wasn't as good. Because these characters, you almost know, like... and this isn't a spoiler, I mean, you guys can tell, but you almost know the order that they're going to die in. You know who's going to die. What was that? What was that? You know who's going to die. You know who's going to survive. It's not interesting at all to me. And this is my whole thing about how, again, as I've said before, this is the millionth movie this year to totally confirm my suspicion. There's two types of horror movies now. There's type A, cheap copies of older, better movies. And that doesn't mean a cheap copy is bad. If you copied something that you could get at Olive Garden at home, and it was actually pretty good tasting and pretty accurate to it, then, that could be good. I love their chicken gnocchi soup. But, like, that's what this movie is. It's a cheap copy. And then, of course, type B would be horror movies that are just so over the top and insane, and they have no real, like, meaning to them. It's just a bunch of insane shit with no actual meaning or substance. So that's what this movie is. And so if you really like that, then you'll highly like the movie. I don't think the movie's terrible. It's just, like, okay. And it surfs that line of, like, being okay the whole movie. But then the last 10 minutes, it gets really, really bad. The last 10 minutes is, like, totally unnecessary. It almost feels like I don't know, like... it's just the whole ending, it feels tacked on. It feels like something that the movie could have gone without. It just is not very good at all. I hated the ending part. That was my big, like, I don't like this movie very much. Like, honestly, like, I did have it ranked in my top 10. All the way up until that ending part. So, I don't know. Maybe if... I really wish I would have liked the movie better, and that I could put it higher on my list too, because there are movies that are above it that are obviously worse, but they stick the landing better than this one. This one did not stick the landing. That ending is so bad. It's such a it's a mess. Yeah. This movie is also definitely Disney-fied. I'm not going to go into any more details as to why. Just in general of, like, feeling like Disney Star Wars in terms of, like, putting nostalgia over storytelling. I mean, there's this one part, this is not a spoiler, but they reference one of the lines from the original movie. I believe it's the first one. I can't remember. But I've heard this line before. You know, it's referenced a lot. Or, I mean, it's quoted a lot. Sorry, that's the... But the way that this line is said, it's so cringeworthy because, like, there's these deliberate pauses, like, I'm going to do something. And then, like, you know, like, it's just really, really, like, ugh, God. They were definitely, you know, hoping that, like, the audience would cheer here. It just really, really, like, ugh. Like, I hate that type of thing. And then there's also a lot of moments, there's also a lot of jump cuts in this movie, like, or I don't think that's the right term, but, like, there's a lot of times where it cuts, the scene cuts, and then they're automatically doing something completely different somewhere else, you know, like, or I don't know, am I explaining that right? They're like abrupt cuts. So, like, there's a character walking, and then they cut, and then all of a sudden they're at the end of their pathway of where they need to get to. So, and then there's also a lot of moments that feel like they were just made for the trailer. Like, there's one part that I'm certain where, like, there's blood that gets all over this girl's face. She pauses, and then she's like, ah! You know, like, and it's like, come on. So this movie in general, it just feels like they're treading familiar territory. You know, it doesn't feel like they're really doing anything new. And all these characters are so terrible. The only character that's actually good, surprisingly, and ironically, is there's this, like, cyborg character named Andy. He's actually the best character in the movie. He's the only character who has a character. He's the only character who has a character arc. All the other characters are just, like, bland, boring cardboard cutouts. There's also lots of telling and not showing in this movie, you know, and that's why, as well, the beginning part, especially the first, like, 20 or so minutes, there's so much bad dialogue of, like, instead of showing something, there's, like, this dialogue that'll tell you, like, all this backstory and exposition, and, you know, I don't like that either. And then, now let's talk about the final girl, because this is another element. And see, this is how depressing it is, guys, is that, like, you look at all these horror movies, you know exactly who's going to survive. I mean, you know, that's the final girl. And it's like, I hate that. I hate that type of thing. Like, you guys understand now why I hate final girls? Because you can look at a movie like this, and you look at a certain character, and it's like, oh, okay, she's the final girl. Like, I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But this final girl character, she is basically like the cinematic equivalent of a vanilla ice cream cone or something. You know, all the characters in this movie are really, like, uglified to the point of where I guess what I'm saying is, like, this final girl character, she wasn't a good substitute for Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver in the first Alien movie, I mean, you see pictures of her all over the place. She's really sexy, and she's still badass, and she's still awesome. This final girl character is more of like a modern one, where she isn't really allowed to be sexy. She just has to look like really uglified and kind of like boring and bland. You know, like you could see her walking down the street in like an urban setting, you know, when it's raining, because her character's name is Rain. She is good at acting, though. That's the only thing. Like, she is actually good at, like, acting, kind of. Because instead of making one face, you know, the constipated face, she makes two faces. she makes a resting bitch face where she's just like, okay, tell me what to do. There's an alien in here. Why don't we go do that? And that's another thing, too, of, like, whenever they're in, like, a sticky situation, she's immediately able to come up with, like, an answer of what to do. She's like, okay, well, how about we just do that? And then they just do it, and it works. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, that's a final girl type of cliche. And then her other face is like, oh my god, what's that? What's that? But she doesn't say anything. It's just like, oh. So she either has the, what's going on? Maybe we should just do that. Oh! You know, and she just switches that the entire movie. Like, she never has another face. I mean, she's almost more robotic than the actual cyborg character. And then also, I think another issue I have with this movie... Well, I will say, too, I appreciated all the practical effects. I appreciated the effort put into making the movie because it was a very well-made movie. I mean, the making of it, like the special effects and all that stuff, that wasn't the problem. The problem was the writing, the directing, the editing, all that stuff. But apparently, the guy who wrote this movie, he also wrote Texas Chainsaw 2022. And in that movie, it's funny because, like, that movie, I really, really loved. Even though I can kind of acknowledge that, like, yeah, the characters were bad. They were meant to be bad. And, I also thought that Leatherface was made to be formidable and scary again in that movie. I mean, he was a beast. He was a monster. There was no facing off against the Leatherface in that movie. But the aliens in this movie, they are really not formidable villains. So that's what I'll say is that, like, Texas Chainsaw 2022 made Leatherface formidable again. Alien Romulus did not make aliens scary again. Okay, they were not really that scary. In fact, I thought that the face huggers were the scariest thing in the movie. The face huggers were actually pretty scary and creepy, but the aliens themselves were not. I mean, they were really, really kind of lame. So, without going into any spoilers, I'm going to give this movie kind of like a nostalgic, kind of like children's lunch you take to school or something. So like a PB&J sandwich with chips, cookies, and a Capri Sun. Now that's what the movie is until the last 10 minutes. It's just kind of like, that's an okay lunch. It's nothing special. It's nothing fantastic. It's not that bad. But then you look in the peanut butter jar and you see that bugs are swarming the peanut butter. So you have eaten a sandwich with bugs in the peanut butter and jelly. And you panic and you have to make yourself throw up because you're so sickened and disgusted you didn't even notice. And then you have to go make yourself like some chicken bouillon. You know, like a bouillon cube. Put it in water and shit. And that's what you have to eat for lunch. That's this movie. So if you like that, you're going to love this movie. Now, for the spoilers, the stupidest part, or one of the stupidest parts of the movie, because the last 10 minutes was the worst part, but one of the other stupidest part, there was this part where the final girl was about to fall to her death because the gravity came back on the ship or whatever, and she's almost about to die, and you think, oh no, this is kind of interesting. They're going to kill the final girl? Cool. That's kind of like an interest. Oh no. An alien I think one of the primary aliens saves her. It saves her, and then it puts her on the ladder, and he just kind of looks at her like, yeah, you're going to be my dinner or something. But it was so queer. It was like, see, this is what I mean. Like, the aliens in this movie were not scary. Something else that I didn't get to mention, because that was non-spoilers, is that the aliens are scared of guns. So, like, all you have to do is show you have a gun to an alien, and it gets really scared of you and won't come and get you. Like, so, yeah. I don't think there's much else to say. I want to keep this short and sweet and just give my honest opinion. And I can't really tell you guys, like, normally, like, especially with the Halloween movies, the new ones, I was able to tell you, like, what parts they ripped off from other Halloween movies. I'm not able to do that with this one. So, you know, I don't know, like, if they copied something from another Alien movie or if they were paying homage, except for that one line that I definitely know. I mean, it was so obvious, too. Yeah. So anyways, please like this video and comment, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's interesting how this movie turned out, because I was really, really liking it, kinda. I mean, it wasn't bad, and so it was in the top 10, but then that last 10 minutes happened, and I was like, oh. And then I had to move it all the way back down to where it was like when I was at the beginning. So, yeah. Yeah, that ending was stupid. So, goodbye, everybody. See you soon.